Have you ever wondered why some coaches, consultants, influencers, top producing real estate agents seem to get sales effortlessly while others struggle to find their next deal? Well, it's not by chance. There's actually a specific process or a formula that these people are using for persuasion. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today is the ultimate persuasion checklist. So that way you can make sure that you're taking your leads and your contacts and turning them into closed deals, happy clients, and referrals, which, let's face it, is the core of your business. If you don't have the skills of persuasion, what do you have? These are the same skills that I've used to be a top producer in over 3 different industries, literally moving billions of dollars in sales through the economy over my career, training a sales team, and developing 3 companies doing over $40 million in cash collected, all around these persuasion strategies. So I'm looking forward to sharing this video with you today. This is going to be a 3-part series, so make sure if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel that you do so now to make sure you see the other 2 videos coming out on persuasion in the near future. All right, so let's dive into the ultimate persuasion checklist. First, I'm going to go over some basic persuasion principles that you 100% need in your process of sales, marketing, communicating with your team, and also just in life in general. All right. So the first core principle that is little known, somewhat common sense, but overlooked, is the law of reciprocity. You see, if you do something for somebody, they're going to more likely want to do something else. So in the art of persuasion, you have to think about the law of reciprocity and how you can add value to that relationship up front, because they're going to be more likely to want to do business with you if you lead with value. So don't overlook the art and science of reciprocity. The next one is commitment to consistency. You'd be shocked at how many people are turned off because of inconsistent relationships. And when I think about personal relationships, right? How long does a relationship go well if you're not consistent and do what you say you're going to do? Well, it's the same way in the sales process or when you're doing business with somebody, and it starts off from the time that they enter your ecosystem, how consistent you are with your follow-up, how consistent you are with providing materials and content, all the way down to how consistent you are with your client journey and meeting the expectations that you told them that you were going to follow through on. So consistency is everything, and human nature craves it because we live in a world of inconsistencies and people constantly saying they're going to do one thing and then doing another. And so the law of consistency is absolutely huge when it comes to persuasion. The next one is social proof. Social proof is something that is commonly known, but we find that most people don't utilize social proof to its fullest capability. So when we're doing a landing page or when we're putting together a marketing flyer of any kind, if there's space for it, our rule of thumb is to have at least 10 testimonials, either written or video, with a mix of video being the priority because we know social proof is so important. I want you to think about the last time you've made a decision, how important testimonials and reviews were you to your decision-making process. So you want to make sure that you have the same level of importance when you're using this for your marketing and your sales materials. So the next one is authority. So positioning yourself as an authority or as an expert in your specific field is absolutely huge. And then also feeding off the authority of other people that are that have similar interests are also really, really important. So a lot of times you'll see us do videos and you'll see me talking about how this is a strategy that some big player in that specific industry does, and then I'll talk about the strategy that I do that's similar. Well, that's feeding off of other people's authority, and it kind of combines social proof with authority, but making sure that you're combining your authority with people that might even have more authority than you do in the industry is a great way to add credibility and persuade. The next one is likability. As much as this sounds like common sense, there's so many people that don't go out of their way to be likable. They're not thinking about what they're saying and how they're saying it, and using words that aren't definitive, leave room for open conversation, but still guide them down a pathway to make them be more likable. A lot of people have a tough time overcoming objections because they don't know how to do it in a likable way. So just make sure that you use the likability principle. And I think this applies to any sort of relationship, not just business relationship, Because let's face it, if you're not likable in your personal relationship, how long is that relationship going to last, right? And the next core is scarcity. So, for example, if you have an unlimited amount of product or service, and there's no scarcity or urgency around whatever you're trying to sell or whatever you're trying to do, then essentially the urgency to move forward is just not going to be there. So you could place urgency around the market or scarcity around inventory or whatever it may be, but when you apply the law of scarcity, it's going to be more likely for the person to act sooner than later. And so what I want you to do is moving forward is take these core elements of persuasion and use them as a checklist, right? Look at all of your sales scripts, your dialogues, your checklist, your PowerPoints, your marketing materials, and ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a job have you used the core elements of persuasion when it comes to marketing, sales, business growth, team building, and relationship building? On a quick side note, before we move into some more advanced parts of persuasion, I want to let you know that these manifest themselves differently in each situation or circumstance, so it's important to adjust them to whatever circumstance that you're applying them to. So for example, how they're positioned on a marketing sales page might be different than how they're positioned in my sales presentation, but the core elements still should be there. So before we move on, I want to talk to you about a few examples and some ideas and some stories of how we use persuasion effectively and how it's changed our specific outcomes dramatically, specifically our closing rate. So for example, in the real estate business, when we first put together our listing presentation, we really didn't have any case studies or stories that we integrated into our listing presentation. And so we found that sometimes we were losing out on listings that we were more qualified for, we had a better marketing plan for, but we couldn't figure out necessarily why we were missing out on deals. And then we started using this checklist, and we realized that we were lacking the element of social proof. And so what we did is we came up with stories specific to each major objection that we got. So we were getting about 5 objections. So we just made sure that our agents were equipped with stories to be able to tell for each of the 5 objections, and they could weave them into their objection handling process. And our closing percentage went up almost by 10%. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you go from 20% to 30% or 30% to 40%, 10% is a huge deal across the board. And it took about 3 to 6 months to really get this honed in and to get the agents used to doing it. But the people that adopted it, it was amazing. And it's the oldest saying in the book, but stories sell and facts tell. So you want to make sure that when you're using the elements of persuasion, you're using storytelling as an example, that you realize if you're trying to hit home on making a really good point, tell a story, and it's more effective than you just telling them what they should think. Okay, nobody wants to be told what they think, but when you tell a story, it really settles in their mind differently. And hopefully you caught this in the video, is to get a point across, I actually told a story about telling a story, right? And this is what we do in all of our training and coaching, right? If you look at really good trainers or influencers or coaches, you look at any person that was a philosopher or somebody, a biblical character like Jesus, they were phenomenal storytellers, So that's just an example of the power of one example of the power of persuasion. So before we close out this video, I want to make sure that you have action steps. What I want you to do is go through the different elements of persuasion and score yourself on a scale 1 to 10 on how well you do with them, and then come up with a checklist of how you can start applying these to your different marketing pieces, your sales pitch deck, or whatever it may be in the different parts of your business. Maybe you're a trainer or you're a coach. Maybe you're a real estate team and you're the team leader of that team, and you need to get better at persuading your teammates to do what you need them to do to be successful. Whatever it may be, figure out the application and take action. So let's quickly go through and review the steps one more time. Reciprocity, stop the video right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you do with reciprocity? Okay, next, commitment to consistency. How do you do on a scale of 1 to 10? How consistent are you with your follow-up? Based on the definition you see on your screen, how consistent are you at each point of the relationship with your clients or your personal relationships? Ooh, this one's scary. All right, social proof. Based on the definition you see on the screen, how good are you with social proof on a scale of 1 to 10? All right, let's move on to authority. How good are you at Position yourself as an expert and also using authority figures to get your point across. All right, likability. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likable are you? Do you have a likable personality? All right, let's move on to scarcity. How good are you at positioning the principle of scarcity in your marketing, in your sales, in your service? And again, that might be inventory, that might be a limited amount of positions, a certain amount of people that you're willing to work with at any one given time. But how good are you at positioning scarcity in your marketing and your sales? All right, so at this point, you should have a really great idea on how to use the core elements of persuasion. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through the advanced elements of persuasion now that you got the core principles down, but I want to give you 1 week to apply the core elements of persuasion so you can take action on them before we get into the advanced elements. I'll see you in the next video.